What is up, fellow Eagles fans? I know it's been a minute since I did one of my season of the fan vids, and I apologize about that. Just been, just no excuses. Like the team shouldn't have any excuses after this pathetic game they put out there this past Sunday afternoon. As this vaunted gauntlet just continues, one primetime game after another. Um, so the Eagles did lose pretty big to the Niners, obviously, we all know. Niners get their NFC Championship game revenge. I'm not, and believe me, I do not want this to sound like any excuse. There is no excuses. When you lose the way they did, it's not like, it was a last second drive, field goal, turnover. When you get thumped the way the Eagles got thumped, there's no excuses. There just isn't. I mean, you can't come up with things. But I watch this sport a lot, and I know about time and place. And the fact is, the 49ers really want, they quadruple circled this game on the calendar. And the Eagles should have too. Look, the Eagles shouldn't have, walked into this thing. And I'm not saying that they did, but it's almost like the Niners came in with, like, they were out for blood for this one because of the NFC title game, right? Like, this was their I called it their Super Bowl, and basically that's what it was. This was their Super Bowl. I mean, they hadn't, and any other game this year is not going to matter as much to them as this past Sunday did, right? They wanted this game. The Eagles are coming off, winning however many in a row. They had played a couple games in, 10 days, whatever it was. Tough game against Buffalo. Overtime win. Look, they're fatigued right now. I'm not saying all teams are. All teams are. But you can just see the body language in that game was just not right for the Eagles. And I saw it from the end of that first quarter, from the second quarter on, it just wasn't right. It just wasn't right. You could see, and you could tell by the lack of effort on some of those plays. So some of those tackles, some plays on offense, you could just see the lack of effort, and that shows fatigue. And I'm not saying that they're going to be like this every game the rest of the way. They won't. But, I saw one team fighting for it and wanting it in the 49ers, and the other team in the Eagles was like, after that first quarter, was basically like, what can we do kind of thing, The Niners had a couple extra days off, and again, not saying it as an excuse, but I would like to see, what happens if these teams meet up again in the NFC title game. And I believe if they do meet up again, it will be in the NFC title game, whether it's here or whether it's there. And I hope it's here. Even though we lost the way we did, if we're going to play them again, I would still rather do it in our home with our fans. And I still think we have a shot. Maybe that sounds, weird, kind of dopey to say after that game. I just think it was one of those games. I've seen a lot of games like that for teams that go on to at least either get to or win a Super Bowl. The Patriots had games like that back in the day. Kansas City has had games, right? The 49ers, it was even talked about. The year they won the Super Bowl, 1994, their last Super Bowl win. They got crushed at home to the Eagles. And that was their last loss all year. And they went on to win the Super Bowl. So it happens. You're going to have games like this. It's not like this team has too many games like this. This is their first real blowout loss in a few years, where they just looked hapless, and it just was a real pathetic display. But believe it or not, there's been games like that for teams, and then they go on to win the Super Bowl. And you see this type of game like show up on the America's game, right? It may even lead with that game, just that awful game, the low point of the season or whatever, and then that team goes on to win the Super Bowl. Sometimes that team, sometimes you get blown out by a team and then you end up beating them, en route to winning in the playoffs and winning in the Super Bowl. Different situation, I get that, but I remember back in '08, the Eagles blew out the Cardinals at home on Thanksgiving night, and then they went to Arizona in the NFC title game and they lost. The same team that they blew out, that they just made look silly. The Cardinals look silly. They look like a high school team out there against the Eagles that night. And the Eagles ended up losing to them in the NFC title game. It was in Arizona, but, they played the same team, and They ended up losing to them, and the Cardinals went on to, lose in a close Super Bowl to the Steelers. But it happens. So I'm not going to sit here today on December 6th and say, oh, there's no way, all right, if we play the Niners, just don't even watch the game. It's not even worth it. There's no way they can win. They can. They have to tighten things up. They have to shore things up. But I'm not going to say they can't. I mean, they can. The Niners can make some mistakes. I mean, just because they looked that way on that Sunday, which was the game they wanted above all else, it's hard, man. It's hard to ramp that type of intensity back up. When you already played that game and you won as convincing as you did, the next time you play that team, it's hard. Even if it's a playoff situation, it's hard to get that geared up for that game the way they did for this past Sunday. And so at this point, okay, now the Eagles should be the one to be more motivated because they were the one that got slapped around. Now they should be the one with that chip, the way the Niners had that chip. They should be the one with the chip the next time the two teams play, whether it's in the playoffs this year or whether it's next season or whatever. It's like I said before, listen, Eagles-Niners is going to be a big thing. This is a big rivalry right now. And right now we have this kind of Bermuda Triangle between the Eagles, the Niners, and Dallas. These three teams. And it's funny to me all these Dallas fans are laughing about that game because they can't beat the 49ers worth a damn. They can't, the Cowboys are the Niners' bitch. Every time the Niners play them, they blow them away. They beat them in the playoffs, beat them in the regular season. They beat them this year. They blew them out this year in San Francisco. Yet Dallas fans are like, you lost to the Niners. Yeah, well, you lost to the Niners too. You guys always seem to lose to the Niners. At least the Eagles got them last year. I know, the quarterback, but they won the game. So, yeah, it was disappointing. I mean, look, I did have a couple buddies here from Cali, Hazur and his cousin E being the Eagles fan, and they were at the game. And again, shout out to them. We had a great time, with them here. And it's like I told them. It's funny. We were eating that night. We were having some dinner at Applebee's, and I remember talking to them. I'm like, you know what? This is the type of game. It's tough to see your team lose, but it's almost like, okay, if you're gonna lose like this. Don't lose on like a last-second turnover or field goal or touchdown or something like that. Those are the ones that are tough. Those are the ones that just kind of stick to your ribs more than like a blowout. A blowout loss, even though it was a big game and a big situation, and as much as the Niner players are talking, their fans are whooping it up, but still it's like, okay, we lose like that, you just never had a shot, right? After the first quarter, you never really had a shot. And even in the first quarter, I'm sitting here at home watching that game, and the Eagles are going down the field on them, and you got to settle for field goals, and that's never good. 2 field goals against that offense. It's not you're not going to win that way. They had to come away with at least 1 touchdown on one of those 2 possessions, and they didn't. The Eagles just played too sloppy. I mean, it didn't matter. Playing the way they did, it didn't matter if it was the Niners, the Texans, the Cardinals. It wouldn't have mattered. They probably would have lost to whoever they played, that evening. They just played like crap, and that's just all there is to it. I don't know if it was as much as what the 49ers did defensively. I just think the Eagles' game plan coming into that game was ridiculous. And we can blame the play calling, we can blame the players, whatever. It's got to be better. And look, this week we know we're going to Dallas. And Dallas has won 14 straight home games. They have looked like a world beater at home. They're not as great on the road. Eagles beat them here, some not that long ago. So they're a much different team, and they're a much better team at home. That's why you gotta hope that they don't have a lot of home playoff games. So they're little thing can continue from the last time they were in an NFC title game, which was '95. So we want that to continue. We want them to be on the road, so they'll probably lose. Wherever they go into division. What I would imagine for Dallas, and I know all these fans are whooping it up because they've been winning and whatever. What I feel was how's it going to go down. I still think the Eagles are going to win this division. I just do. I look at the Eagles' rest of the schedule compared to Dallas' rest of the schedule. And the Eagles, look, after this gauntlet, the clouds start to lift a little bit, playing the Giants twice in the car. And I'm not saying anything's given, but I mean, you look at compared to what Dallas is going with the Dolphins and the Bills and the Lions. I mean, they're having their little mini gauntlet. Okay, the Eagles had the gauntlet in the season for any team. Dallas is going to have a little mini gauntlet, including the Eagles game, but it isn't their building. But the Eagles, yeah, the rest of the way for the Eagles, I mean, the Eagles got to take care of business. So I still think the Eagles are going to win the division. I think Dallas comes in second. And so Dallas is going to be that team that goes to whoever wins the South, whatever direct teams wins that, the Saints, the Falcons, whoever wins that, they'll go there in the wild card weekend and they'll win because that other team is garbage. And then they'll go in the divisional round to either San Fran or Philly and they'll lose because this is what Dallas does. They're the second round exit. So their fans can whoop it up now, but come January, that's where it ends. But anyhow, the Eagles, like I said, it's a big game this week. And they got to clean things up. And listen, I know they have issues on defense. I mean, they did bring in Leonard as a free agent from the Colts, but he hasn't quite been. I mean, I'm not counting on them just getting him, and it's going to change everything, right? I mean, he's an upgrade over, but really, what's he an upgrade over, right? Guy who should probably be a practice squad guy. So I mean, okay, it's a good move by the Eagles. I don't think it's the cure-all, absolutely, but it's a move they had to make. And I'm glad they did. It's always Howie season. Just remember that. But what do they have to do? They got to get better. Listen, this offense, I don't understand. For a team that has as good an offensive line as they do, why they just don't want to ever, they don't want to run the ball. And I'm not saying make it like the 1940s or 50s where it's, run. But you got to have balance, particularly this offense. Because the running game leads to the passing game. It leads to openings. And it seems like all the Eagles want to do is just, back Jalen Hurts up and go for these deep passes. Like, you don't need that. I mean, why did they have success on their first couple drives? Because they were running those slant patterns. They were quick hitters. The ball was out of Jalen's hands. And then it's like the Buffalo game, these other games, this game. It's like the maybe the book on the night. Well, their secondary isn't that good, so you can have some big plays downfield. It's like that's all the Eagles wanted to do was have these big plays downfield, long developing plays. Offensive line, even as good as the Eagles are, can only block for so long. See, you gotta get that ball out of Jalen's hand. You can't just do these deep routes all the time. It's not Madden out there, But you gotta be able to run the ball. And particularly this team with that offensive line, and I do believe they have talent at the running back position, even if they want to do this running back by committee, which I'm not a huge fan of because you don't get in rhythm as a running back if you just keep coming out of the game. But, they go with, Swift, they go with Gainwell, they go with Boston Scott, whose best games are against the Giants. But, they had Penny, they never dress him. But you can't establish, and if you're not establishing a running game, there goes the RPO because the teams aren't going to respect the run, so they don't have to worry about the RPO as much if you're not running the ball. What, they have 9 running plays last week, 9 carries? You can't do that. I know they were behind. You have the pass, but come on, you can't do that. You have to establish a running game, particularly this team, because the defense isn't as good. The defense is giving up how many points a game? And I'm not saying all season they're bad because there's been games, right? The Rams, Tampa, Kansas City, where they did shut the other team out for a half, right? But at the same time, you look, particularly this week, you're playing Dallas, who's very good offensively at home. You're going to Seattle after that, and they're starting to find their offense now. You need to be able to control the clock, control the ball. You want to keep that offense off the field, and you want to keep the underbelly of this team right now. Let's face it, the underbelly of this team right now is their defense. You need to keep them off the field. Your offense, which is the strength of this team, as we sit right now on December 6th, is the strength of your team. Your offense is the strength of your team. You need them on the field. You need your defense off the field, and you need importantly the your opposition's offense off the field. Let your playmakers do their thing. Let your offensive line do their thing. Establish a run. Slant patterns, quick passes, get first downs. Maybe you get down to 2nd and 3, and then 3rd and 1, and then and then you brotherly shove your way for another first down. All right, I mean that's okay. It's not sexy, it's not the big play, but you're moving the ball, you're moving the clock in your favor. You got to dominate time of possession in these games. Because if the other team's dominating time of possessions, we're in trouble. Because our defense is on the field, and that's not good. This linebacking, safeties, secondary, you got 2 old corners. That's not good. That's not good. That means the other team is going up and down the field on us and scoring points. More than likely touchdowns like the 49ers were instead of field goals. You got to establish the time of possession. And this team is more than capable. The thing that's so aggravating is this team's more than capable of doing it. But it's just like, oh no, we're just going to have Jalen go back to pass. These big plays for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. You can't count on that. Yeah, they're great receivers, but you can't count on that. And I know they get Dallas Goedert back this week, hopefully, right? And that's going to be a plus because you get your starting tight end back out there who's a good blocker, as well as being a good, pass catcher. And that opens up the offense too. But it has to be better. It has to be better. Jalen has to be better. He knows that. He'll tell you. He has to be better, He missed some players. He missed some guys open last week, just has to be better, and I believe he will be. I believe in Jalen. I think he's done nothing in his career to this point but to give the reasons why you should believe in him because he's a very good athlete and he's a very good quarterback. I know he's playing hurt right now. You can tell. The knee is an issue, and I think whatever the issue that he has, I think it's going to come out after the season. He'll probably have some surgery or something. They're never going to say exactly what he has now because that just is something for the other team's defense to, key on. But he's definitely playing with something. You can tell. He's not as athletic as what we saw a year ago. And I know it's a different offensive coordinator. I don't think it matters. I think Jalen's hurt. And I think that's one of the big reasons why this offense isn't playing as crisp as we saw a year ago. And I know there's a difference in OC. I get that. But again, it's like I've always said, if you have success, if you're one of those franchises like the Eagles, Kansas City, some of these other teams, San Fran, some of these other teams, right, you're going to have success. Teams are going to pluck from you. They're going to take your coordinators as their head coach, right, because they want to get better, right? So that's kind of the downfall of having success. You're going to lose really good, coordinators. And then you got to hope that the next guy who comes in is going to be able to pick that up, and that doesn't always work. Some teams make it look easy, but it's not. But it's not. We even see with Kansas City right now. I know they were able to retain Eric Bieniemy for all those years, and now look at it. Without him there, I know Andy Reid is still really good as an offensive-minded coach, but you can see the difference in that team. They didn't lose a lot this offseason. I know Juju went elsewhere, but they really didn't miss a lot. They didn't lose a lot of players. But you can tell that offense just isn't the same, without Bieniemy there anymore, helping, to call some of those plays, some of the creativity. And now you're seeing Washington do some stuff, right? There's a difference. It's not just, I know we focus on the Eagles because we're all Eagle-centric here, right? But you see all these other teams that lose these coordinators, and you see the difference it makes the following year. And it's tough. But it's those special teams that are able to overcome that to keep having success, keep getting back to Super Bowls or conference title games, and having a chance to win again and to win another ring, win another Lombardi. Those special teams do it, right? So we're hoping we have one of those here. I believe we do. I know it's tough to say that after this game, but I believe in my Birds, man. And I know it was a tough one. But this team is a very resilient bunch, and they have a lot of leadership on this team. Now, I don't know how much longer some of these veterans are going to be here. Kelsey, Graham, Johnson, Fletcher. But they have a lot. They have good leadership in that locker room. That's not going to allow one game, as bad as that San Francisco game was, but they're not going to allow that game to set the tone for the rest of the season. They know what's at stake right now. They know how big a game this is on Sunday Night Football against Dallas. They know how big a game it is the following week on Monday Night Football against Seattle. And they know how big the other games are too. Listen, you're playing the Giants. They got nothing, they're just going to play loose. They got nothing to play for besides a draft pick. So, those are dangerous games too. You're playing the Cardinals with the old defensive OC coming into town. I'm not looking past anybody. And like I've always said, it's a week-to-week deal here. This is a week-to-week league. You can look a certain way one week and then look another way another. I mean, look at all these scores every week. Look at all these teams that lose the teams they shouldn't be losing to, or having close games against teams that maybe they shouldn't be having close games against. It's week to week. So right now it's Dallas. Next week it's Seattle, and then you take on, and right now we could say it's a softer schedule, with the Giants twice and Arizona, but still you got to get up for those games, and unless the game doesn't matter, unless that Giant game at the end of the year doesn't mean anything, and we're seeing Mariota out, which by the way, David Carr. Oh, the Eagles should put Mariota in. Marcus Mariota doesn't want to be in there right now, okay? Marcus Mariota would tell you, yeah, I'm good. I mean, what, you want us to get blown out the next few games? No Jalen Hurts, there's no chance to win these games. Come on, man. What a dopey comment that was. I can understand if he's saying, well, Jalen's hurt, and it's affecting his running, and it's affecting the offense, but then you're saying, oh, sit him down for Marcus Mariota in games that are really important that the Eagles need to win. We're going to go with Marcus Mariota. I mean, you're just giving the game to Dallas. You're giving the game to Seattle at that point. My goodness. But anyhow, like I was saying, this team needs to get back to a balanced offense. And unless they do that, it's going to, this game's going to be tough. They're going to make it tougher on themselves this week in Dallas. If they come out and they're just passing the ball left and right, not good. Not good, because what that means is you're going to have the ball with less time. You're giving more opportunities to that Dallas offense to be on the field and our shaky defense to be on the field with them. That's not good. There's a lot of playmakers on Dallas. We know about CeeDee Lamb. We know about what they have. And look, better or worse, and as much as I like to harp on Dak, he's a pretty good quarterback at home. And he puts up numbers there. So the Eagles haven't won there since, ironically, the Super Bowl year of 2017. That's the last time they won in Dallas. It's going to be tough. But I think the Eagles would make it tougher on themselves if they come out with a similar game plan as they had the last few weeks. I mean, I'm watching, and I know they won that game. I'm watching the start of that Buffalo game. The Eagles get the ball first, and it's 3 straight drop-back passes for Jalen. And he runs around, tries to make a play, but 3 straight. And I'm saying, you gotta be kidding me. This is how this one's gonna go? Yeah, and they've gotten off the tough starts. They don't seem to be on the right page, and that blame goes around. That's coaching. That's players. That blame goes around. You got to be mentally ready and to go every week. You can't just count on, okay, we had a tough first half, now we're going to get them in the second half. It doesn't work that way, particularly against a team like San Francisco. You can't walk away with those first 2 drives, as good as they were, with field goals against that team, with that offense, because you knew they were going to start. Look, they're going to put it together. They're just too good not to. They have too many weapons. It's almost like that offense is a mirror of the Eagles' offense, player for player, just about. I'd still give a slight edge to the Niners for running back. And even though Jalen, I know he had a tough one, but I'm still going to give us a slight edge at quarterback. And I know it's tough saying that after last week, but I think total body of work, I still like Jalen. I think he's more athletic, and I know he's playing with an injury, so he's not doing it this season. I think he's more capable of getting away from sacks, getting away from pressure. And I know Purdy had a really nice game. You give the guy his flowers. He's played great. He's an MVP candidate. He'll be in the top 3 this year, and you know what? Deservedly so. Mr. Relevant jokes aside, he's put together a heck of a run. And he's certainly going to, if at the end of the day, if the Niners, If he wins the MVP, I don't think it's unwarranted. He's had a hell of a year. Um, Listen, the Eagles know what's in front of them, and they know that they still control their own destiny. They still have the number one record in the league. They got to keep ahead of San Francisco. I mean, that's what it is. You got to keep ahead of San Francisco and Dallas. You got to keep ahead of those two teams. You got to get that number one seed. You got to get the home field. You got to have that first round bye. Get some guys healthy, whatever, after the season, right? You need that. It helps. We saw it last year. It certainly helps to have that. Kansas City seems to do it every year. Now, hopefully this year they have to go on the road. They haven't had to go on the road all these years with Reed and Mahomes there in the playoffs. They've had every home game at Arrowhead, and it's helped them. They've won a ton, right? Keep going back to Super Bowls, and part of the big reason is because they get that first round bye. They're the number one seed. New England all those years, same kind of deal. And I know some of those years they did win on the road. They had to go on the road. Some of those years they lost on the road, right, in the AFC title games, right? I remember they lost the one in Indianapolis. They lost Denver. But they were always routinely a bye week, first round. They never hardly ever had to play in wild card weekend, and then they would get going in that, in the divisional round and the championship round, and they were always mentally tough. Like the week off never seemed to bother them. They were just always ready and prepared. To play when the divisional round came around, and they did lose some divisional games, but for the most part, you can almost pen them into at least the AFC title game every year, for however many years, right? That's a tough thing, but they were able to do it, so you do give them credit there. And the Chiefs are doing it. I mean, they seem to play at home. They have played at home all the time. I'm kind of hoping to see them out of Arrowhead this year, but we'll see. And the Eagles, the same thing. I think it's very important for this team to get home field because I think they do play really well at home. And I know that the past Sunday withstanding, I think for the most part this is a very good home team with these fans and this stadium, and it's an important thing. So they know what's in front of them. And this is a very important game this Sunday night against Dallas. I have concerns. I don't know if the changes that need to be made offensively are going to be made. I guess it's just wait and see. I know a couple of Eagle fans rung the ball sign outside the NovaCare complex today. So we'll see. We'll see. I kind of like the chances. Look, they got punched in the mouth last week. There's no other way to put it. Now you're either gonna get yourself off the mat and fight this Sunday night against a very good Dallas team, or you're going to allow yourself to get punched again and get knocked down again. So we're going to have to wait and see. I don't know. I can't honestly tell you. I'm not even going to give you a score for this weekend. I have no idea. I'm hoping that the Eagles team that I've seen most of the season and last season, shows up on Sunday night, and it's not the one that I saw last week, and it's not the one that I've seen at times this year get off the lackadaisical starts, sluggish offensively, giving up plays defensively. Listen, you're going to give up plays to that Dallas team. There's no doubt in my look. You're going to do. They have too much talent for you not to, and they're playing at home. They're going to give up plays. They're going to give up points. But I think it comes down to our offense staying on the field, long touchdown scoring drives. That's what it's going to come down to. You got to control the clock. You got to keep Dak and his buddies on the sideline, our defense on the sideline watching. That's really what it's going to come down to. And if they can do that, they have a very good chance of winning the game. Look, Seattle looked like a world beater on offense this past week against them this last Thursday night. And that's an offense that was struggling coming into that game. Well, they found something against Dallas. So that defense, I know they made plays. I know they get their turnovers and whatnot, but you can move the ball on them, and you can have success, including in their building. Because if Seattle can do that with Geno Smith, the Eagles can certainly do that with Jalen and the offensive weapons that we have. But, again, this isn't just going to be about Jalen and the receivers. It's got to be about the offensive line. It's got to be about the running game. It's got to be about a commitment to have a balanced offensive attack. Long scoring drives. And if they can do that, they're going to win. If not, it's probably going to be 2 straight losses, and then it's nervous central for the rest of the season. And then we're going to be, hoping every week that Dallas or the 49ers lose and we win. We got to run the table then and hope for those 2 teams to at least have one more loss. I think Dallas will, looking at their schedule. The 49ers, they got some games, but, they're playing the Ravens, but it isn't San Francisco. That's the only thing. So we'll see. We'll see. Anyhow, it was disappointing that this last Sunday was a terrible game for the Eagles. It's a shame. It was a home game. There's a lot of talk. Going into this game, there's a lot. It was a game circled on the NFL calendar, and it's a shame the Eagles just didn't show up to it. It really is. It was embarrassing, but again, am I shocked that the Niners won that game? I'm not. I mean, time and place. Do I think that we can never beat that team? It's over for us? No. I can't say that. And if we do play them again in the NFC title game, I think it would be a great game. And I give the Eagles a chance to win, particularly because of how they lost. That sticks. That you're reminded of that. The 49ers were reminded of that at the NFC title game. Now the Eagles are reminded of it in this game, and they're gonna want some payback a little bit. Particularly if it's another playoff situation, an NFC title game, a chance to go to the Super Bowl in front of our fans. There's going to be a lot of emotion. There is, and they'll probably keep Big Dom in the away from the field. Only in Philadelphia. That type of thing can only happen here. You're never going to see another team's director of security going at it with a player. No, that happens in Philly. That would be a Philly thing. But shout out to Big Dom. But anyhow, yes, I listen, man. The gauntlet continues. It's the Eagles, so every game's a primetime game, right? So right now it's Sunday Night Football against Dallas in the Jerry World this Sunday night. Hopefully we can get a win there for the first time since the last time the Super Bowl season, right? 2017. Hey, get this taste out the mouth, of this bad loss to the Niners. And nothing would get it out of the mouth, get this taste out of the mouth more like beating Dallas in Dallas. That would certainly wash a lot of the pain from this past Sunday away for sure. It's going to be a tough game, and I will give credit to Dallas. They do play very well at home. It's like they're a whole nother team, right? They look better. They look different, So we got to help and keep them away from home games this playoffs. We can't allow them to come back and win this division. We got to still find a way to win it. And a win in Dallas, I think, would all but secure a division title. There's still some work to be done, but it would all but secure it. I mean, they would have swept them. That's tiebreaker. Whatever else is tiebreaker, right? So, let's get it done, Eagles. And I think they're the team to do it. I mean, these guys have been, like I said, resilient. They have a good chance to do it. And on national TV, let's just get it done. And then the following Sunday, another primetime game. I was telling the fellas here in California, they were surprised at how late the games are here on the East Coast. They said, "Yeah, why do you think all these late night games? I'm sitting up, and I can't go to bed until like 2 a.m. after the games." It's a tough ordeal, but when you have a good team, you're going to play in a lot of primetime games. That's just what it is. So that game the next week got flexed to a Monday night. So another late night here in the Mighty Kingdom. But, I look forward to it. I do. Listen, I think we just have to be reminded this is a damn good team. I know they didn't look like it on Sunday. I just don't think it was, it's going to sound funny. They just weren't them that day. For whatever reason, you give credit. I'm not taking anything away from the Niners. They played a hell of a game. They deserve that win. But the Eagles, it just didn't look like them. It just didn't look like them. So I hope they find themselves again this Sunday night against Dallas and then continue on against the Seahawks. 2 tough games. Road games, primetime, national TV games. Both of them are going to have their own challenges. But you know what? This team has overcome a lot of challenges at this point. They've won a lot of big games to this point. Last weekend withstanding, they won in Kansas City. They beat Buffalo. They beat Miami. They beat Dallas. So they have a lot of quality wins on their on their slate already this season. Now they have to do it again. And if not, you gotta fight like hell to still try to get that 1 seed. You gotta win out. I mean, that's what you gotta do, and then we gotta hope to get a little help at that point. But we'll worry about that if it comes to that. First of all, we gotta get a win. We gotta get back in the win column, and then things will start to take care of itself. So let's hope for a win this Sunday night in Dallas. Go Birds as always, and I will see you all in the next one. You all take care. Hope everything's going well for everyone. What do you always gotta do? You gotta leave those likes. You got to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. You got to hit the bell icon to be notified to all future content from yours truly. Whether I'm talking about my birds, whether I'm showing jerseys and hats, whether I'm vehicle vlogging, whatever it is, you never want to miss an episode, so make sure to do all that, right? And I will see you all in the next one. All right, everyone, take care. Bye. Go Birds!